Hello, friends, and welcome into the Marriage Talk podcast. It is great to have you with us. And right at the very beginning, let me encourage you that if you didn't hear the episode directly prior to this, please go back and listen to it, because this is, for the most part, a two-part conversation to help you as a couple through the holidays. Bill Hobson here, joined by Jay and Laura Laffoon. And Jay, you mentioned at the very outset that I also might want to remind everybody, or inform everybody, to be more accurate, that the conversation in this episode will probably lean a little bit more towards the PG rating side, because we're going to get into some intimacy issues. So keep that in mind if you have the 6-year-olds in the car and you don't want those questions. Yeah. So last week we talked about some of the phrases that spouses need to hear from each other during the hectic and really busy and stressful holiday season. What does part 2 of that conversation look like?
Well, one of the things that can get destroyed by the busyness of the holiday season is your intimate life. And not that is the end all be all of a marriage, but it is an important part of a marriage. And chances are one or the other of the spouse has a greater need for that intimacy. I'm not going to identify which one. You and your spouse probably have got that figured out already. So making intimacy a priority, we don't want folks to feel like it's just one more thing we have to put on the agenda. We want it to be something that
want
is
it to be a checklist.
That's right. Yeah, wrap the packages and yeah. Anyway, it's something that really can enhance the holiday season, to cement that love that you and your spouse have for each other, some special moments of intimacy, and there's a couple of very key words, one more for the wife and one more for the husband, and the word for the wife is, honey, I desire to be with you. I really have a desire, and the reason we use that word is because it's not vulgar. It's not it's not going to turn a woman off to feel desired. Oh my goodness, he desires me. He has this desire to be with me. And so that's the phrase that we really encourage men to communicate to their wife. And again, you don't have to do that by just saying, oh, honey, I desire you. I really, really desire you. Do it with your actions. Give her that back rub, give her that foot massage. Listen to her when she's stressed about the fact that she's got things to do that she's not feeling like she's going to get done, and reassure her that you will help her get those things done. But that really is
some things that we talked about in the previous episode, part 1 of this phrases for the holidays, is a few things. Bill, you talked about making your wife doing a really good job of making sure that you guys are a team. It's first and foremost about the two of you. It's not first and foremost about the gifts or the kids or the grandkids. It's about this team. And that kind of plays into this when we talk about intimacy, making sure that this is the priority. And when Jay said in the previous episode, when all is right in the bedroom, all is right in the world for a man. And when all is right in the world, all is right in the bedroom for a woman. Ladies, realizing that when all is right in the bedroom, all is right in the world for your husband, especially during this time of year when there's a lot of family coming in and out, there's a lot of stressors, there's a lot of money being spent. There's just a lot going on, that if we can make this team the priority and making sure that your husband is physically taken care of intimately, will make everything go. I know it seems like really that's how easy it is. Really it's really kind of that easy. And so when your husband is stressed and, maybe you need to take some time to just focus on your husband.
We had a young woman working for us doing our social media a number of years ago. And she came in and she's just like, oh, my husband, he is just, and they were like in their late 20s, early 30s. He's so stressed out right now. He's just like on edge all the time. He's just like, he can't get off the edge. And it wasn't even the holidays. And she's like, I just can't figure it out. And I just said to her, I said, can I ask you a personal question? And she said, sure. And I said, when was the last time you and your husband were intimate? And she's like, it's been a while. I said, trust me, take care of that. And this was a Friday. She comes up to me Sunday morning before church. Is it really that easy? I can't believe how simple that, so again, yes, ladies, especially during this stressful time of the year, for most men, it's that simple. And it's not meant to be some trite thing. It's part of how God created us. It's much like you ladies, you understand your hormones, or maybe you don't, but
there's a days.
This is a hormonal thing that in some ways we don't build that hormonal clock. It's just within us, and it goes on a regular basis. And so understanding that is really, really important. And then ladies, the phrase that your husband in this intimate area needs to hear from you is, I want to be with you.
Different than I'm willing to be with you.
Yes, I'll give you a perfect
I'm
yes.
willing
Yeah.
communicates obligation.
Yes.
You don't want to be obligated. You want it to be, I want.
Not to get too personal, but Laura and I, we've got a 2-person chair. It's not a love seat. It's not a lazy boy. It's a 2-person chair. It's a chair designed for 2 people. We've had one of these. It's a great marital tool because you sit with each other, you hold hands. And one night I was holding her hand and rubbing her leg and put my arm around her and gave her a little neck rub. And I said, so, and she said these words, I'm willing.
I'm not opposed.
Yeah, I'm out, okay, I am out. I don't need you to be willing. I need you to want to. And see, again, I don't know why, but there's a degree of a man's ego that's tied to this. And it's, and I don't know why. I don't know why the Lord tied our self-esteem to our wife's desire to be with us, their want to, but it really is. And those words are powerful. Now some men might go, okay, hey, at least you're willing. But that's not what's going to make a great night together, especially during the holiday seasons, when you probably are not going to be as intimate as normal, because there is a lot going on and there's a lot of stress and there's a lot of,
but again, making sure that stays a priority.
And there's a lot of family.
But if the house is full of 18 relatives, it could be a little dicey, but hopefully you could carve out some time. And I'm also thinking of the ridiculous commercials that we see that put an undue level of pressure on the expense of the gift that you're delivering to your spouse, right? So there's the couple that looks like they both maybe have been out of college for 6 to 8 months. And somehow for Christmas, they're giving each other matching SUVs with giant bows on them as they walk out of their $6 million Bloomfield Hills mansion. And she, they spent $145,000 on 2 vehicles, and she walks out and he tosses her the keys to the red one. And she goes, well, I really want the black one. And she just takes the keys. And that's how they sail off happily ever after into the holiday season. And I was like, what are we doing here? Who are these people?
Well, they have a really popular Etsy store. That's what it is.
Well, they must, because there's no chance that they've already earned that money.
Right.
And I think the potential is to get distracted by what you have rung up on the credit card versus those quiet moments that you have intentionally set aside for each other. And I mean, I don't have any data to back this up, but I would venture to guess that 10 years from now, your lasting memory of the holidays will be the quiet moments, if there are some, and not the stuff that you unwrapped or went into debt to get.
Right.
Exactly.
It's going to be those hugs, those moments where your children or your grandchildren are sitting in your lap and you're reading them a Christmas story. Those are the things that really matter. And yes, presents matter, especially for, like, Laura's a gift person. So I don't spend a ton of money, but I make sure that I get a special gift, one that I had to think about, not just, one that
one that I put on my list.
That one that's on her list, but one that she's like, oh my goodness, you really thought of me. And yes, that new driver is exactly what I wanted, is,
your specs.
The traditions are part of the traditions that we have had over the years are part of what our kids remember. those things that we did every year that made memories, the Christmas lights, the Christmas tree. Now we've started one with our grandgirls of baking cookies during the month of December. And the house is a disaster because they're 3 in 1. So it's not like, we got sprinkles. We still got sprinkles in our kitchen that I think are from last year, but it's the fun. It's the games that we play and those kinds of things that make the memories.
Well, and the reality is, if you land in bed at night and you start talking and reminiscing about those special moments, that could naturally lead to another very special moment between you and your spouse. That, listen, we're so blessed with our children. We're so blessed with our grandchildren. We're so blessed by, our parents and the heritage that we've, to reflect on that kind of stuff during this time of year, can lead to some very quality, intimate time for a husband and a wife, because you realize, one of our Thanksgiving traditions is while the food's getting cold, everyone has to say what they're thankful for, but we go around the table and we say,
we switched it to after, after everybody's eaten out.
What are you thankful for? Because gratitude is such an important part of every relationship, but especially of this husband-wife relationship, to be grateful for what your spouse brings to the table.
And it brings into our conversation another word that I know you focus on, which is cherish. Why don't you define that for us and how you work that phrase in between husband and wife?
Well, I don't know that I have yet to meet a man that word naturally comes out of their mouth.
No chance.
Yeah, it's just, and I have no qualms with that. It's just not something that I'm, I don't cherish, just isn't a word that a man would think of. However, it is a way that you communicate to your wife she's everything you need. And that really is the crux of the word cherish. And I don't know that a woman necessarily needs to hear the word "I cherish you," because again, what man's going to say that other than maybe in a song? But when you communicate to her, "I only have eyes for you. You are exactly the person God wanted me to walk through this life with. We complement each other in so many ways."
It's the wrapping up of all the phrases that we've talked about. The "I love you," the "I respect you," "I'm proud of you." It's all of those,
tied up with a bow.
I see I'll give you an example. And this happened during COVID. Because like Jay has already said, I'm like Buddy the Elf's cousin. I love this time of year, from Thanksgiving to the New Year. I love it. And during COVID, when we could go out again, even though you had to wear masks and stuff, everybody was at home. You were at home, you were looking for something to do. And here in Michigan, if you're listening and you're not familiar with Michigan, we have a town called Frankenmuth. And in Frankenmuth is the Christmas store, Bronx.
Of all Christmas stores.
It is this huge, I don't even know how many acres it is, but it is all Christmas.
And we're not talking about square feet, we're talking about square acres of Christmas.
And it is full of everything Christmas. And we were just sitting around the house one morning and didn't really have too much to do. And Jay goes, "Let's go to Bronner's. Let's drive to Bronner's." And it's an 1.5 to 2 hour drive for us. And I'm like, "Are you serious?" And he's like, "Yeah, because I know it'll brighten your day. It'll be Christmassy. We can walk around and look at everything. We can have the hot chocolate and get some, I think they have those candy almond things." And so I knew he was going to hate it. I was like,
with a passion. Okay.
You're a better man than I am, Jay. I'll tell you that.
Driving an 1.5, 2 hours, first of all, to go to a Christmas store.
During the holidays.
Yes.
And during the holidays, when it's going to be, this place is packed during the summertime, but it was so special to me. It just said to me, that spoke Cherish to me, that he cherished me. And we've done it every year since. And even though I'm like, "So are you still wanting to go to Bronner's?"
Yeah,
he's like,
yeah. That was a COVID thing. That was a COVID thing.
On every year since. And so that was a way that he said, "I cherish you," without having to use those words. It was something he knew that would mean a lot.
Jay, just keeping this PG, I'll just say that if that did not result in a wonderfully intimate evening, then there's no hope for any of us, because
that Bill, you're supposed to do these things without expectation.
my version of that would be, how about you call a couple of your friends and why don't you guys go spend the afternoon at Bronner's? I cannot fathom taking my wife into that zoo in the
Yes.
holiday season. So
Well,
kudos to you.
another way to, especially during this time of year, to tell your wife you cherish her is to bring home flowers, and on the card, just write "just because."
Mm.
There's no, I'm bringing you this just because, and of course, again, with no intention, but just one of those ways of saying, honey, I really do. I'm thinking of you even when I'm not around you, and that speaks volumes to your wife.
So ladies, in trying to keep this PG, you could just put on some nice, fun pajamas and just put a sign on that says just because.
Right around your neck that says just because.
When I think of the whole
Can't breathe.
when I think of the whole family atmosphere during the holidays, I'm also remembering how much our kids and maybe grandkids are just kind of watching how the adults behave. I mean, it's all part of the deal. I could tell stories upon stories of going to grandma's house and watching my aunts and uncles interact and maybe not always get along all that well, or how the kids would interact, because you're watching, when you're sitting at the kids table, you're kind of eavesdropping on the conversation at the big person table and finding out how glad you are you're not at that table and
Yes.
all that stuff. But I also think about how the kids will be watching how husband and wife handle just busyness and stress and holiday stuff. And are they getting along? Are mom and dad getting along? Do they look like they're enjoying this? Or are my memories of Christmases going to be, man, all they ever did was fight, or they just glared at each other, or they were always angry at each other, right? So not only do all of these phrases and all of these concepts have an important role between husband and wife, but I think they're part of setting the example for the formation of how your kids someday will handle the holidays. Is that fair?
Well, and it's something as simple as taking a kitchen kissing break. We're fixing dinner, but you know what? Time out. I'm going to come over and I'm going to give you a nice kiss. And it's, again, nothing that's going to gross the kids out, but to let the kids see that mom and dad have affection for each other, that mom and dad love each other. Because what that does is not only models good behavior, good, healthy behavior, but it makes the kids feel secure. And that's huge. Study after study shows that one of the best things you can do to help your children feel like they're secure is to show each other affection in front of them, holding hands, giving hugs, kissing goodbye, all of that kind of stuff. It's just little pieces of glue that make that child feel like, oh, mommy and daddy love each other. We were just over in Grand Rapids with our granddaughters because mommy and daddy were going on a date. And the youngest one couldn't understand. And we just, keep saying mommy and daddy love each other and they're going to go spend time together because they love each other. And, again, does the 2-year-old understand that? Not really, but we're going to keep
saying it,
repeating that over and over until they do understand that this is really a good thing for us as well as it is for mom and dad.
So as we think about all of this in the context of the holiday season, and we know that these principles apply 365, but if you were to put a level of priority or importance on all of this, let's just say November, December, as for whatever reason, cultural pressure seems to ratchet up at this time of year. And I don't know a better phrase for it other than cultural pressure, because unfortunately, for all of the times that we have bemoaned the commercialization of Christmas, it's a real thing. So whether I complain about it or not, it's unlikely to change. And a lot of people fall prey to that, where it's, we've got to we're going to end up maxing out the Visa card because we've got to get the latest and greatest. And how do you recommend that couples handle the external pressures, maybe aside from family gatherings, but just the pressures of the season, the materialism of the season, and how it can really bring a little extra drama into an otherwise celebratory time of year?
I think for us, and I said this in the beginning of the previous episode, that goes along with this, is the sitting down before it ever starts. Sitting down, maybe you have to do it the day after Halloween and say, here's what we're going to do this holiday season. Here's what, and we do this. Here's what the kids get 3 gifts. And the green girls get 10. No, I'm just kidding. They only get 3. This is what we do. Everybody gets 3 gifts, and this is what we go over everything. Here's,
and yes, one of those is that Lexus we were talking about earlier.
Here's the list of what we're thinking, and and he sends me stuff that he thinks the girls might like, and we kind of do that list of buying of everything together, so that we're doing it and we know how much everything is and how much it's going to cost, and we set that budget ahead of time. The same thing for, like we've already said, with the outings and the expectations of parties and the food. And then you can, if you sit and you do that together, then you can kind of look at everything as a whole, and you say, okay, you can set aside those times that are just for the 2 of you. You can set aside those times that are just for family. You've gone through the budget and you've said, here's what we've agreed upon. And
here's 2 words that describe what she's talking about. For us to shop together, for us to make plans together, for us to take the time to do all that together is not efficient, but it is effective. And this time of year, efficiency is not as important as effectiveness, that we're going to have an effective holiday season. And I think, and I don't know that Bill was baiting this necessarily, but that final word is really what I hang my hat on for getting through this holiday season. And that is, I believe in you. It all comes down to the fact that I believe in her and she believes in me. And we believe we were meant to be together, and that we're going to get through this, no matter how hard, how fun, how many challenges it brings. And if you don't think, if you look around you and you think people don't have challenges, then you're not looking hard enough, because everyone around you has very difficult challenges. And that's why this marriage podcast and your marriage is so important, because you're going to have troubles in this world. And to know that you've got a fan sitting beside you, to know you have a teammate, a lover, however you want to qualify your spouse, and that they believe in you more than anyone else in the world. That's what helps you slay the dragons and wade through the weeds and walk through the tough times, is really having that understanding of, oh, they're for me, not against me. And if I can rest in that and rejoice in that, then we walk through these holiday times together. That's what I think.
I think that's really good. And I also think, Laura, as you talk about that pre-holiday conversation, maybe it should include some spending parameters.
yes,
Not just activity parameters, but let's budget out what's about to happen here, because
right.
the list of potential recipients of gifts is maybe grown by some grandchildren or new sons or daughters-in-law, whatever. The financial pressure on a couple during the holidays is a real thing. You guys have seen it, heard about it for a lot of years. So along with all of the other value, I cherish you, I desire you, I believe in you. Maybe it ties into back in the prior episode, maybe it's part of respect, or maybe it's all of the above. But it's, I care enough about you and us that we don't want to be regretting the holidays when January rolls around because we didn't take the time to set up some boundaries.
And what's interesting is those boundaries, we had a budget. Well, then Jay didn't realize that budget did not include stocking stuffers. Okay, no. Those were the big, so we're going to spend another $100 in stocking stuffers. And again, that was a little tension that year, but then we talked it through and we worked out what is the total budget going to be, and we operate in that. But you're right, it is a matter of respect and matter of saying I love you enough to not go nutso during this time of year.
Yeah, so that sitting down before the holiday starts doesn't just include things that are expected of you, but the budget. What is the budget for each gift that has to be given. What are we buying and what are we not buying? And
how much are we spending on the family members we like versus what we don't like?
The naughty list.
But yes, all of that is hugely important to making less stressful holidays.
Well, it's a fascinating conversation. We'll actually continue it a little bit more the next time that we gather. And at the same time, we would love to hear from those of you who are listening with your questions, your comments, maybe some of your experiences of how you have addressed these things and come to enjoy the traditions and the family time and all of those aspects of holiday life, because there are a lot of people who dread this time of year coming around on the calendar for whatever reason. And that's unfortunate. These are intended to be times of great joy, of celebrating traditions, of eating far too much, of doing special things for other people. I actually think that one of the most powerful ways of handling the holidays is by doing something special for a ministry in your part of the world, or maybe there's a homeless shelter, or perhaps there's some other way that you can go to a shut-in or whatever, and do something for somebody who doesn't have nearly what blessings most of us have. And it plays a pretty big role in refocusing what the most important things in life are.
Yep. It really does. And I think that's a great way to teach your kids too, that Christmas is not necessarily about what you get, it's what you give.
Yeah.
Whether it's a soup kitchen or taking a dinner to a shut-in from your church.
Adopting a child with a local Toys for Tots or whatever that might be.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep. There's all sorts of ways to express Christmas that go far beyond your own family. And I would encourage people to do so.
Well, thank you both for the insights, both last week and this week. Like I said, we'll continue some holiday conversations in the weeks ahead, but we know that during this time of year, many of you are in and out and maybe not geared into podcasts or videos and that kind of thing. So just remember that when you're in the car driving to grandma's, feel free to put on Marriage Talk Podcast. The kids will probably not want to listen, but you can listen. Okay? And we'll check in with you next time. And hopefully we'll see you on marriagetalk.org, where you can share some of your comments, thoughts, and questions. Thanks much for joining us. Jay and Laura, thank you.